Hello students, in this session we are going to deal with an interesting aspect from the pen of William Shakespeare, one of the greatest dramatists ever witnessed by any of us in the course of literature. He has written 13 comedies, 13 historical plays, 6 tragedies, 154 sonnets, 4 tragicomedies and 3 long poems. He was born on 23rd of April 1564 to John Shakespeare and Mary Arden. William was the third child of the 8 children born to the Shakespeares. A very little is known about his childhood except he studied in Stratford Grammar School. In 1582, at the age of 18, he married Anne Hathaway, who was elder to him by 8 years. The very next year, they were blessed by Susanna Shakespeare, and 2 years later by the twins Judith and Hamlet. In 1616, Shakespeare's youngest daughter Judith married Thomas Quinney, and 2 months later William Shakespeare died at the age of 52 on his birthday in 1616. He was buried in the Stratford Parish Church, Stratford. After knowing about the poet, now we are going to deal with the thematic concerns of the poem, All the World's a Stage. All the world's a stage is a very famous phrase which is used all over the world by many number of people. We need to know the historical background or the background to the play itself. As You Like It is a comedy written by William Shakespeare, and the present sonnet or the present extract is taken from the play, especially from Act 2, Scene 7, and it is spoken by one of the melancholy characters named Jacks. He is the mouthpiece of William Shakespeare, and William Shakespeare is trying to present the philosophical implications about the human life through this character. So far, the story of the play is, it rotates around the theme of usurpation and couple of characters named Rosalind and Senior Duke. Rosalind is a female character who is given utmost importance in the course of the drama, and she disguises herself just to protect the interest of herself and her father as well. She used to live with her uncle, Uncle Frederick or Duke Frederick, who also proved to be the usurper, who has usurped the dukeship of his own brother, of his own elder brother, Senior Duke, and forcefully driven his brother to the forest of Arden. Unwillingly, Senior Duke, along with his friends, has to live in the forest of Arden in exile. In the course of time, similar kind of thing happens with Rosalind as well. Ultimately, she is also forcefully driven by Duke Frederick out of the state, and she disguises as Ganymede, and along with Celia and a gesture touchstone, she leaves the state and comes down to the forest of Arden to accompany her father. After gathering over there, a reunion takes place and she falls in love with Orlando, and the play ends with a happy note when a couple of marriages took place. In the meantime, Frederick also realizes his mistake. He is brought to the proper track of life, and again Senior Duke is given the dukeship, followed by the rest of the people, again reunited in the course of time and living happily at the end of the play. So, unless we know the background of the poem, probably it will be difficult for us to understand the sonnet written by William Shakespeare.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant, mooling and puking in a nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice, turning again to a childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all, that ends this strange eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sun's teeth, sun's eyes, sun's taste, sun's everything.
Now, we are going to look into the poem quite textually. So far, the extract, that is, all the world's stage is concerned, as it is mentioned earlier, it is spoken by a melancholy character, Jacks, who is the mouthpiece of William Shakespeare himself. The philosophy of life is being presented by the character Jacks, as he says in the text. See the beginning of the sonnet itself. All the world's a stage. The beginning itself is very much suggestive. Jacks is trying to say that our life is nothing but some of the roles that we play in the drama of the world. So this world is being compared with the play. This world is being called as a drama, and here we, being the characters, we perform various roles over there. And that beginning itself is very much striking. As the poet says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. So each and every human being, irrespective of the genders, irrespective of their natural belonging, they are the part and parcel of this drama, and they have their respective roles to play. But here the poet is also trying to present a contradiction. We are just the players here, probably the unseen authority, as we can say God also, he has assigned us some job to be performed for a shorter period of time on the surface of the earth, and once the job is done, we will be no more in the course of time. In the subsequent expression, the poet says, they have their exits and their entrances. See the beauty here. As mentioned earlier, the poet has created a contradiction by saying men and women. In this line also the poet says, similar kind of contradiction is again created. They have their exits and their entrances. Here the philosophical implication is very strong. And one more fact of life is also being presented through this mouthpiece, through this character called Jacks. The poet says, our entry here on this surface of the earth is a temporary one. As we have entered here for the time being, probably we will get some time in future when we have to make our exit, once we have to go away permanently from this place. And this is how almost everybody does. We come here, we stay here for some time, and we go. That is nothing but various experiences that we have in the course of our lifetime. Here, entry means, or entrance means nothing but the entry that we make on this surface in the form of birth. And when we say exit, exit means the point of death, the point of time when we experience the ultimate time of life, that is the death. So, this is how whatever span of time we get, right from the point of time of birth to the point of time of death, that particular span is nothing but the lifespan that we get, and we do perform as per the roles assigned by the unseen authority. And one man in his time plays many parts. See here how beautifully the poet has presented this concept. One man here indicates everybody, maybe a man or a woman, irrespective of the gender again. We do perform our roles. A man can be a son, brother, husband, father, and some other roles as well he may play throughout his lifetime. So, these are the roles that we play. Similarly, a woman also can assume so many roles in her life. She may be a daughter, she may be a sister, she may be a wife, she may be a mistress, she may be the mother. So, different roles are there that a lady is going to assume in the course of time. And this is what the poet is also trying to point out, that there are several parts that we perform in the course of time. And hence he says, his acts being 7 ages. The poet says, at first, what is our first role? Our first role that we experience is nothing but being an infant, our childhood, the very beginning of our life. Probably most of the time we just have in the lap of the mother, or else in the arms of the nurse, and we do enjoy that particular beginning of our lifetime. Second, we become a school boy. Again, as per the gender, no need to present the things in a different way again and again. But the point is, everybody experiences the very second stage in life. After coming to certain stage, we are admitted to school. We come across some formal education, and we are properly taught by our teachers various aspects of our life. And that is the very second stage, that is the very second age that we experience, as the poet says here. Probably this is the age that the school boys or the girls, they trouble a lot to their parents. Sometimes they are forced to go to school. Sometimes they show their unwillingness to go to school, but they are forced to go to school with a bag at their back, and they have to undergo some sort of education so that they can establish in life in the future. The poet says about the third stage in life, when the child, when the school boy becomes quite mature. The third stage is, as the poet says, and then the lover, sighing like furnace, with awful ballad made to his mistress. See the beauty here, how fantastically the poet has used the words. He says, the third stage, that is being a lover, involved in the love affair with a beautiful lady. I think that itself is a marvelous experience, a wonderful experience that one can have in the course of lifetime, because he is highly enthusiastic. The person becomes highly motivated, and probably that is the only thing that makes him quite alive so far his performance, his act in this particular stage is concerned. Then the poet talks about the fourth stage, very important. You find, or when an individual finds himself with a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, as the poet has pointed out about the patriotic feeling of an individual, and he is supposed to repay the debt of the country. Then a soldier, for full of strange oaths and bearded like the bard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. This is the very stage when you find the person is very matured, very much composed, very much dedicated, very much committed, and he is always ready to die for the sake of his nation. The role of a soldier is nothing but to take care of his motherland. The role of a soldier is nothing but to offer, to render the utmost services possible for the sake of the country, And this is what is being done by a soldier in general. So the soldier is ever ready, even he is ready to go, even in the cannon's mouth. Means he is also ready for that sort of situation if at all he happens to encounter in the course of time. Then the poet says about the following stage in life, that is nothing but being a justice. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined with eyes severe and beard of a formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. See here how the things are being materialized in the course of time. We do experience various things in life. We come across different situations in life. Probably sometimes it happens with an individual that he has to accept some bribe. He has to accept some illegal earning, and probably that leads to him to a sort of misdeed in the course of time. And here the poet is talking about that, how an individual is going to earn in a different way and making his life and probably trying to feed his family. But that is quite objectionable if at all the things are interpreted on the ethical grounds. In the following expression, the poet says, the very sixth stage in his life, sixth stage shift into the lean and slippered pantaloon. Now, the stage has come when the person finds himself again in a very, very sound position. He has a couple of spectacles. He has spectacles on his nose and a pouch on a side. His youthful house well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank and his big manly wise. See here how fantastically the poet has presented about a pantaloon, about a gentleman who is quite matured, who is quite grown up, who is very much composed because of all the experiences that he has gained in the course of lifetime. And this is how is the sixth very mature stage in the life of an individual. Slowly the poet leads with the subsequent idea. He says, and whistles in his sound. Probably when the person finds himself to a mature stage, in a very sound position, he likes to get into contact with so many people around, and he enjoys a lot. The poet is trying to lead us to the last stage of life, that is the seventh stage. That is nothing but the last stage of life. As the poet says, the last scene of all. In fact, each and every human being who has come to this mortal world has to say goodbye forever once in a lifetime. And that is what the poet is trying to convey in the last three lines. He says, the last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history. Our life, right from the beginning till the last moment of life, is nothing but eventful sequence of happenings. Maybe favorable to us, may not be favorable to us, but they become the part and parcel of our history. They become the part and parcel of our life. And this is what the poet is trying to say, is the second childishness and mere oblivion. Once we come to this stage, after youth, we experience, everybody has to experience the old age, the evening of life, we can say. That evening of life or the old age, that gives a very different exposure to the life itself, and it is said, probably experienced by many as well, that that is the second stage when we experience childhood once again. So the poet says, childishness and mere oblivion. So there are so many things that we recollect from the past and that we experience probably at the last stage of our life, that is being an old person. So the last line, the poet says, line number 28, probably the end of the poem. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans test, and sans everything. So, that is the stage that we experience when whatever sound imagery, whatever sight imagery or hearing imagery the poet has used, all these are just adding on some flavors to the poem, and that gives us the sense that our life is full once we come to the stage, but it is for sure that each and everybody who comes at the end at this stage has to experience all the 7 stages which are expressed by the poet in this particular poem. And unless we experience all these 7 stages, probably our life is not going to be a complete one, or our life is not going to be a full one. To conclude the sonnet, as we have studied that the poet is trying to convey the philosophy of life, which is commonly applicable to all, and those who experience various stages in life definitely perform various roles in life as well. As the philosophy suggests, everybody should believe in action, and whatever roles we perform, we have to see that whether we have put ourselves into right action and we get the expected returns in the course of time. Basically, we need not bother whether we get the rewards for our doing. We should much bother for the action that we do in the course of time.